Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to our fourth panel discussion. This is really exciting. It's kind of bittersweet for me. I've been a little consumed by it for the last 4 weeks, so a break would be nice, but I've so enjoyed sharing all the Wedding Co members with all the attendees to all our seminars. It's just so exciting to hear from these experts on what they feel is going on out there and really helping you move forward with your wedding day in these really strange times. So I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. I'm Catherine Lash. I'm the owner and founder of the Wedding Co. And we hope to see you in person in November. That's when our Wedding Co market is. And that's November 21st, 2021. So we hope to see you there, and all attendees get para tickets, so we will be sending those out in the next couple of weeks. So we are here to talk about memories. Weddings or any type of ceremony exists for us to remember to remember. They remind us who and what is important. When planning your wedding, you must make sure you have the vendors in place to help you create an archive of mementos to subtly and frequently remind us to remember, and for future generations to connect with something bigger than themselves. Here are the top 4 things you need to capture in those mementos: faces, voices, words, and self-expression. So today, we're going to talk about making an archive of your wedding. The task of preserving a face in a photo, voices in a video, words in calligraphy, and self-expression in registry is a big responsibility, and one that these panelists do not take lightly. In fact, it's what drives them and inspires them. So I really want you to listen closely to their experiences, their ideas, and advice on how to commemorate your day. So without further ado, I am going to introduce this awesome panel. We have our newest member of the Wedding Co. So thrilled to have her, Abigail Hanna. Abigail is the owner of Vintage 28 Calligraphy. Abigail is a Toronto wedding calligrapher specializing in day of details for weddings, vows, and wedding stationery. We have Corinne Fowler. Corinne is the owner and lead photographer at Corinne Fowler Photography. Corinne is a Toronto and Collingwood-based wedding photographer who focuses on capturing timeless, candid, and natural wedding photographs. Luis Morera, creative producer at Images Life Media. Images Life Media is a Toronto-based production company with offices in New York and LA. For over 25 years, they have been producing wedding films that touch the heart and commercial work that moves the mind. Melissa Noel. Melissa is the owner and lead photographer at Melissa Noel Photography. Melissa Noel Photography is a multilingual, multicultural, diverse, and sustainable company based in Toronto and Santiago, Chile. Melissa offers bespoke wedding photography services to adventurous couples who want to make their wedding day uniquely their own. We have Stephen Bulger. Stephen is the owner of the Stephen Bulger Gallery. The Stephen Bulger Gallery specializes in selling contemporary and historical photographs from around the world to people local and worldwide. And full disclosure, he is also my husband. Then we have, last but not least, Story Wilkins. Story is the owner and lead photographer at Story Wilkins Photography. With 20 years of experience photographing love, Story approaches each wedding with a focus on capturing the joy and emotion of the day so that the story unfolds beautifully in a timeless wedding album. Welcome, everybody. So if any of the panelists have been watching before, I do this little rapid fire question thing for you. And if you haven't been watching, this is new to you. So what I've been doing is I ask everybody to describe their company in one word. So if we can start, Stephen, you happen to be in my top left corner. So if you could describe your company, not just because you're my husband, in one word, please describe your company. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Emporium.
Oh, I like that. Corinne? You got this, Corinne.
Or I couldn't find the unmute. That's a hard one. I'd have to say memories.
Nice. Woo. Right on topic. Story.
Hey.
I think I'll go with authentic.
Oh, good. That's a good one for you. Lewis.
I was going to say memories, but I'm going to have to go with nostalgic.
Great. Thank you. Melissa.
I also was going to go with authentic, but I'll go with multicultural.
Nice. And last but not least, Abigail.
I will go with sentimental.
Love it. Perfect. Okay, that was great. Okay, we're going to dive in. I'm going to ask each one of you a question, and let's get this conversation going. So, Story, we're going to start with you. With smaller weddings a reality for the foreseeable future, and with everyone having a phone in their pocket, could you tell us why it is so important to hire a professional wedding photographer, no matter what size your wedding, and how many times your uncle tells you he has the new iPhone 25?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, I'm glad to say that we are seeing so many small weddings. Small weddings are better than no weddings. And it just proves that love is not canceled. So I'm glad you're all getting married. Well done. And on that note, really, this is day one of your new family, like the birth of your new family. So don't you want to honor that with the best possible record of the day? So let's talk about Uncle Buck now and his iPhone 25. The rule of thumb goes like this: garbage in equals garbage out. So cell phones rarely, if ever, produce images that are good enough to make the wedding album. In the 20 years that I've been doing this, only once has a bride asked me to include a photo that one of her guests took, because I just wasn't in the room at the time. They're taken so frequently and rarely appreciated by the couple. I often get the couple saying, "Oh, I'm getting all these photos being sent to me, and I look terrible in every one of them." So they're generally disappointing, and they're very distracting. So they just take away from being able to focus, especially during something so intimate like the ceremony. So in many ways, the best advice is always that I say is hire a pro. Make sure you have beautiful photographs and video. Ask the officiant to make an announcement. Guests, just put away your cameras. This is all going to be covered beautifully by the professional media team here. And if possible, let your guests know you're going to be sharing the photos afterwards and a link to the video, so that they don't feel desperate to capture their own memory, that they'll get your better memories coming. There's no comparing the two standards of what Uncle Buck is going to provide you with versus what your professional is going to provide you with. Uncle Buck's happy if the photo's in focus. That's his standard of perfection. The pro is not happy unless each photograph is fabulous. So we're looking for impact. We're looking for emotion and storytelling. We're looking to use flattering lighting and poses that make you look and feel great. We're looking for great compositions and refinement in the imagery. So there's so much that we look for that's worth paying for. I always ask couples it this way: imagine it's your 50th wedding anniversary, and now you're surrounded by your legacy people, and you're reminiscing about your life together as a couple and what you've created. And then you go through your wedding album. What is the impact it has on you when you look at it? Reminding yourself of what life was like back then, right now, who you guys are right now. I even, when I show images, I'll take out a wedding album and I'll say, it's details like getting a family pose looking really, really lovely, where everybody looks flattering, but they also look like themselves, or even show you one more in a typical album. Like, can Uncle Buck really capture the big picture? Can he really show what it felt like for that couple to walk back down the aisle together as husband and wife? Probably not, unless he gets lucky. And it also makes me think personally, my own photograph, which I took off the wall to show you guys. This is my grandmother's wedding, like her bridal day portrait, married in October of 1933. Photograph taken by Violet Keane, who Stephen can tell you all about if you visit his gallery. And this belonged on my grandparents' walls for years. I loved it. And then my aunts, and now it's come to live with me. And I assure you, if phone cameras existed back then, they wouldn't have captured this. You know, this is a beautifully crafted portrait. So you have to imagine what's going to end up in your album and what's going to end up on your walls. And I guess I'll just finish by saying that you do get what you pay for, and not all professionals are great. Some of them are really new, and you may not want to risk it. So to be safe, do something like stick to the vendor list in the wedding co, because all of us are very, very carefully vetted, and we will all not only be great people, but deliver great memories for you. So sorry, Uncle Buck.
You're out of a job, Uncle Buck.
Yeah.
Dory, can you just speak to understanding also, like, we all like to think that a wedding is, you know, unique or whatever, but there is a structure to every wedding. And can you just speak a bit to knowing the timing of how things work at a wedding, how the ceremony usually works? Like, you're so attuned to the different cultural ceremonies that you know when things are going to happen. It's like sports photography, you know what's going to happen in sports. So you're able to be at that moment. Can you just speak just for a second about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a wedding is a day that's famous for going by too fast. You know, a couple will spend months and months planning it, and then it just goes by like that. You almost blink and you miss it sometimes. So we as wedding day memory makers are very attuned to, there's always something going on, whether it is a part of the ritual, whether it's the ceremony or the speeches or the getting ready, or whether it's just a moment, a fleeting moment happens in between something that you're expecting. And the being ready all the time to capture something that's either predictable or unpredictable is equally important in the overall storytelling of the day. And if you don't know what you're doing, you might look down, oh, this is a good time to change out the battery, or, you know, or check to see if my photos are turning out. And all of a sudden you've missed the couple greeting each other with a kiss for the first time. So, so being fully present, fully aware, and like 100% focused on capturing all of those memories is what you really want when you're looking back at those photos. Nothing got missed.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. Okay, we're going to move on to Corinne. Scheduled intimate moments does not mean they aren't candid. Could you explain the importance of taking time for private moments together and with close family, and how a good photographer stays invisible during these moments?
Figured out my mute this time.
Woohoo!
Yes,
Only takes one
absolutely. Woohoo! Small wins today.
Yeah.
For sure. So I'm finding more and more the candid moments are increasingly important and increasingly popular to couples. When I have my first interviews and first consults with people, you know, of course, people want to have the beautiful family photographs and the gorgeous couple shots, but more than anything, I'm hearing people telling me that they want candids. They want a huge body of memories captured of their wedding day. And I love this person. I love photographing the candid moments. But the thing is that even though candid are, you know, inherently unscripted, unplanned, natural moments, they unfold in a much more natural way if they have a little bit of planning ahead of time. And I'm not talking about, you know, scripting out the exact candid moments that you want to have. That gets awkward really quickly in photographs. I'm talking about thinking about the people and the moments and the little periods of time during your wedding day that are really important to you, and making sure that when you plan out your day, when you plan out the schedule, for example, you're making sure that you're allowing the time and the space for those candid moments to unfold naturally. We set the stage for them, so to speak. And a huge part of that is making sure that you're not rushing through the wedding day. Oftentimes there are moments when you get so caught up in the schedule that you're jumping from one point to the next and getting into the limo and go to the next location. And it's really easy when you get into that sort of rat race of the wedding day to, rush by a moment that could have been really beautiful and that could have formed a really, really wonderful memory photographer was there to capture. So oftentimes what I do is when I hear that candids are a really important part of the day to a couple, we'll chat about who the most important people are that they want to interact with, that they want to capture photographs and memories of them interacting with, and the most important moments. And that way I know going into the day that those are moments that require a little bit of extra time. So maybe it's not time for us to look at our watches and go, okay, the limo's waiting outside. Maybe it's time to say, you know what? Your grandmother just arrived. She wants to see you. You're wearing this from her wedding day. Let's take that extra 3 minutes, bring her in, have a moment, things like that. And oftentimes when you communicate those moments and those important points to your wedding vendors, we're there to help make them a reality for you. So if there is something like that, that's really important, if getting to hang out with some of your friends from college is a key moment that you want to experience, tell us that, and we'll make sure that we finish up your photographs quickly and we get you back to cocktail hour, for example. So basically, if there's one piece of advice that I could offer, if you really want to have a beautiful collection of candid memories from your wedding day, it's to communicate those with your photographer and your planner specifically. And then to really commit to taking the time to sit back on your wedding day, take a deep breath, and really live the day. Don't worry about what's happening next, worry about what's happening now. And it's your wedding day. You cannot be late for your wedding day. It will all work. You will all get married at the end of the day. And it's worth taking those extra few moments here and there.
I'm really glad you brought up the point of, I was going to bring this up before you said it, about a grandparent, because sometimes they leave early. And I think I just have these visions. I used to be a wedding photographer, so I just have these visions of these moments when a grandchild would see their grandparent, and you can plan that. That is totally plannable. And that to me is a really great moment, a really great example of how to think about, planning those candid moments. So I'm really glad you brought that up about the grandparents. I think that's really important. So, Corinne, I'm going to throw a question at you that we have in the chat. What are your top 3 tips for how to choose a wedding photographer?
Ooh, good question. Okay, I would say number 1, make sure that you get to meet with your wedding photographer. These days that means meeting by Zoom, but make sure that you have a moment to actually converse with the photographer, because I find the one most important tip to finding the right photographer is making sure that you connect well on a personal level, because that person is going to be there with you for a lot of really intimate, really close moments, and you inherently need to trust them and to feel comfortable having them around. So make sure that you get to speak with your photographer, make sure you have a rapport, you get a good vibe from them, and you hang up the call and both look at each other and go, yep, that's our person. After that, I would say make sure that you ask to see some full galleries. Every photographer has their own style, but as you start looking through, you'll start to see that it goes far beyond the sort of like light and airy and dark and moody back and forth that goes on the internet, and you'll get to see the content of the photographs more. Like I was saying, if candids are really important to you, make sure that no matter the editing style of the photographer, you're finding someone whose galleries show that they get a lot of candids of, the guests, for example. And number 3, let me see. Can I leave it at 2? Were those 2 good? Those are the 2 that I usually tell people in consults, make sure that you hang out.
The 3rd one's going to come out in the conversation, or we can come back.
There we go.
Okay.
Those are the 2 that I always tell people. So
yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to, Melissa, you're on. Can you tell us the importance of having an album included in a wedding package? What couples should listen for when a photographer describes their albums? And what are some of the other keepsake options? So this is like after the wedding's been photographed, what are these beautiful mementos that you can hand them?
That's a great question. Thanks so much for having me, Catherine.
Oh,
And
it's a pleasure here.
congratulations to all you engaged couples. And thanks for being with us here to learn about the importance of professional preservation of your wedding day memories. How do I answer this? When something is preserved well, it is done with great care, great expertise, and very meticulous. And one good example is Story's beautiful portrait of her grandmother. That was taken by, there we go, see how lovely that is? Taken professionally. It was printed professionally, and it was framed professionally. And here it is looking great after three generations, right? So it's very important to get that professionally documented. Another great example is the albums, the heirloom albums. So as opposed to getting it made by yourself online through these cheaper album makers, or making your own do-it-yourself album. The heirloom albums that your photographer will make for you, help make for you, are curated by you. You pick those moments, those candid moments that Corinne talked about, those authentic moments to put into your album. The album is customizable, and also the pages are UV protected with some companies. I use Decora albums and their pages are UV protected. This is great for protecting your images from oxidization. What oxidization is when the colors of something kind of bleach out from the light or the sun or the environment. A good example is in the summer when you go outside, if you're blonde, you'll be lighter blonde from the oxidization of the sun. So we don't want that happening to your images. You paid a lot of money for a professional photographer, and it makes sense to invest in professional preservation like an album. Heirloom albums also have quality materials that are used. They're hand pressed, hand bound. So those methods make your album last a lifetime or beyond. Some photographers have packages where albums are included in the package, or you can get it as an add-on as well. The nice thing about having the album option in the package is that for those of you who are budget conscious, even though you really do want to invest in this, you do save a bit more getting a package as opposed to a la carte, because usually a la carte, I can only speak for myself, you do pay a full price for that album. So when asking your photographer about their options, you can ask what their basic album would include and what their not so basic album would include. Usually most photographers will have an online gallery, or they would put the album on a USB or in a cloud, since that's the modern way of going. Those are some of the options they'll have, as well as an album. My only concern with having a USB or having it in the cloud or an online gallery, if you're just relying on that, is that technology always changes. So in the late 90s, CD-ROMs, I don't know if you guys remember CD-ROMs, but CD-ROMs were what albums were sometimes the photos were given on. Now it's hard to access that. And now USBs are the thing. Who knows, in 5 years, 10 years, will that be accessible to you? What if the USB goes corrupt? And so the tried and true method of having an album, physical album, is great. Having photos for walls. Ray's grandmother's photo is amazing. And also my personal favorite is photographs, little loose leaf photographs that you can store in a box. That is my favorite because I love to travel and I want to be able to take those photos with me when I travel to see my family. And so those are some of the options you have. But definitely talk with your photographer that you've chosen about what their options are, the different types of albums, the layouts, the different type of matte finish, glossy finish, all of that sort of thing. And if you're still looking for a photographer, I urge you, please do your research with all of the photographers who style that you make. Ask them about their albums, look at the options that they're giving you.
Yeah.
In the long run, it is well worth to invest the money in something that is professionally made, that will last you a long time, as opposed to doing it yourself. Hey, when my toilet needs to be fixed, I call a plumber, a professional, because I might think I'm saving money by going on YouTube and learning how to fix my toilet, but in the long run, I'm gonna break the thing. So I want to trust the professional. So that's the advice I have for you.
That's great. I think that's tip number 3 is remember to not just look at the photographer and the work, but what is the end product that the photographer is going to provide for you. I think that's a great third, like, don't stop at that. And I think the idea of having the album is included because once the wedding day is over, your life begins. And if you're still trying to decide, should we have an album? If it's included, your photographer's gonna be like, nope, it's included. Let's get this done. And you just don't want to miss that opportunity. It's so important. So thank you, Melissa. That was great. We're going to shift gears a bit from photographers to video. Lewis, often videography is not a priority. Can you tell us how couples feel when they hear their loved ones' voices, their vows, and the music from their wedding day, and why they should move videography higher on the priority list?
Thank you for the question, Catherine. Yeah, unfortunately, it is true that video is one of the things that people will often leave out of their wedding budgets. And statistically, it's one of their biggest regrets when they do leave it out. I think, videography works entirely on an entirely different level than photography. And yes, of course, it's very important to capture your day with stills, but I believe it's equally important to have a cinematographer there alongside the photographer. The good thing is that I think people's perceptions of a wedding film has changed a bit for the better over the years. Obviously the equipment has gotten much better. We can produce like really beautiful cinematic weddings with, great camera equipment that have a, very unobtrusive approach. And also the wedding day flies by so quickly. And there are things that you'll miss that a great camera person can capture perfectly for you. Like, seeing reactions to a variety of things that are going to happen throughout the day, like your vows, your processional, your recessional, and the speeches and all that sort of stuff. Yes, it's important to capture the ceremony and the speeches, but telling that couple's love story, I think, is equally as important. And believe me, everybody has a story to tell. I always try and tell my couples to think not just about what they'd like to see in their wedding video today, but what they'd like to see 20 years from now. Or even better, what they think their children or grandchildren would like to see in their video at that point. And I think when you start thinking about it on that level, it becomes, an essential thing that I think everybody has to have. I love it when I get like a couple from years ago that reach out to me and say, okay, you gave me my wedding video on DVD or VHS, and yes, we've been around that long. And now it's like, okay, my DVD player is broken or my VHS player doesn't play anymore, but my kids are obsessed with the video. And so they want us to update the format for them. That tells me that it's doing what it's supposed to do, right? You're not going to watch it every day, but you're going to be happy that it's there. And there are going to be times when it's going to be really, really important to you. I can tell you a story about a wedding that I shot once on the Pacific coast of Mexico, this beautiful resort. And I was shooting the whole day, and I got these beautiful sound bites from the couple, from their family, from their friends, and yes, of course, the vows and the speeches. I was making my way back to Canada, and a couple of days later, the photographer, who was a friend of theirs, had reached out to me and told me that the couple had split up. She had gone back to Australia. He went back to New York. And so there I was with all this footage, and I was thinking, what am I going to do with this? So, when I got back to the office, I cleared our editing schedule, and I asked the editors to work on a little 5-minute recap of the wedding day. And I included all the little sound bites that I captured through the day, lots of those, really, loving moments where they were talking about each other, and of course their vows and the soundbite from the speech. And I sent it off to them separately, and they thanked me. They paid their bill, and I didn't hear anything from them. Not for a while. And then about 2 months later, I was speaking to the photographer. We were on another shoot, and he told me that they were back together. Now, I'm not saying the video did the whole thing, but I like to believe we played a small little part in helping that. Just sometimes it's nice to have a reminder there of why that day happened. And also there's all those things where people will pass on, and you'll be able to preserve those speeches, and that'll all be there, for the times when you do want to watch it. Like I said, we know you're not going to watch your wedding video every day, but it's nice to know that it's there for the times when you need it.
I have to tell you that our kids love watching movies. They love watching home movies. And kids, when they're really young, that is that's a fact. They love this stuff. And to have something like that is so much fun for them to see. And it's really good for them to see their parents like that. It's really, really important. And I would say you probably did have something to do with them getting back together. But here, let's just, that kind of dedication that you would do something like that is really spectacular. Most people wouldn't, they would have just put the footage away. But that's really amazing that you would go that extra mile for someone. Yeah. With no intention for, just so that they had something to remember. So can you quickly just talk a bit about streaming? If people can't be there, can you just touch on that for us, Louis? Thank you.
Yeah, live streaming is something that, today is super popular. Unfortunately, a lot of our events need to be really scaled down. But people still want to be a part of it. People need to connect with each other, and especially at these, big social gatherings and these, momentous family events like a wedding. It's important to have everybody be able to participate in some sort of way. And we've been doing a lot of live streaming, and the reaction that we get from people is phenomenal. Just to see the love that pours in from the comments. And, we do this thing where, people can leave comments as they're watching the video. And sometimes I'll have, an iPad there so the bride and groom can see the comments as they're coming up, and they can turn to the camera, and they're communicating with people in other parts of the globe and seeing their reactions there. It's such a sweet thing to have. And, these are challenging times, and having live streaming is a key part of making sure that, everybody can participate.
Yeah. No, it's so great. So if people are considering smaller weddings, that live streaming really is a great option. Thank you, Louis. That was awesome. Okay, Abigail. Words spoken at a wedding are so important and powerful. Even a guest name on a card can make someone feel so special. Can you tell us why it's important we archive the words spoken at a wedding, vows, speeches, for example, and the way couples can preserve them for future generations?
So thank you for having me on here. Super excited.
Yeah, excited.
And so vows are actually one of my favorite things to write as a calligrapher. And the reason is because those words are one of the most powerful words of commitment and of promise to the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And it lays the foundation of your marriage. After the wedding day, what else do you really have besides the pictures? But you also have the words of that day that you made to each other. And I would recommend couples to write out their vows to each other. Even if like at the beginning, maybe you just wrote it on a piece of paper, that's a good start. But to keep that over the years to come in your marriage, I would also recommend you to hire a calligrapher to write out those vows for you, because those are unforgettable words. Like, you know, sometimes we forget certain words or certain things that has been spoken over time in our lives, but you do not want to forget those words spoken. And the great thing about having your vows written out and having them in your home, like maybe in your bedroom, over your bed, or at your night table, it just serves as a reminder of why you married this person, why you continuing like this commitment with this person. Is because of the promise that you made and the love that you shared through your vows. And it's also a great way for even guests at your wedding to get an insight on your love story with each other, and it leaves a personal touch. And a lot of people don't know what calligraphy is. Some people, they're still misinformed of what calligraphy is. It's a form of lettering art. And the whole purpose, which I love because I've experienced this before when I didn't know what calligraphy was, but when you look at it, it's a form of art that evokes an emotion in you. Like if you're looking at a piece of painting or a picture, it's meant to do that. It's literally called beautiful writing. That's literally the meaning of calligraphy, and it adds meaning to those words. It makes those words even more meaningful when you see them written in that way. So a cool way, I did some examples of what you can do over time to keep your vows is to have them framed. Like a lot of people, they have their wedding vows framed and kept up in their homes, which will last very long. And one thing you don't have to worry about when you get a good calligrapher is a lot of the times people think it will fade over time, but if you have a good quality paper and good quality ink, it will last a very long time as well. And the next thing, if you're a creative bride like myself, what I did was I got a shadow box and I kept the like place cards from my wedding day and wedding vows and kept that, even like the envelope that was addressed, just because it's not just words, it's a form of art and it can be a decor in your house as well. And it also tells a story for when people come over your house and ask you, oh, what's that? So it serves as a great conversation starter. And one last thing that you can do, what my husband did, we have this box of memories together. And when I just started out doing calligraphy, I wrote him letters and he actually had them laminated. So nothing would happen to them if they got wet, if they got ripped. So he kept it there so it could last for a long time. And I love that so much because when we have our own kids, or when our kids have their own kids, we'll be able to give them that as an example of a healthy relationship, of what to say, you know, on your wedding day. It serves as an example as well. And one last thing, which I really liked, I don't have an example of that, but if you have, let's say your mother, your best friend, or your father says a speech at your wedding, what you can do is also get us or any calligrapher to write out those words for you and also paste them in a photo album. If you caught a photo with them, you can put that words right beside that photo to just make that picture even more authentic and bring back those memories when you look back in those albums. So yeah.
I love that idea of having a speech written out. Speeches are really, really important and people put a lot of work behind them. And to have someone to take the time to really give it that handmade sort of feeling to it, I think that's such a great idea. I'm a big believer too that you should be writing your vows at the beginning of the wedding process, like set that foundation before you start the planning, I think it's really important to understand, the values that you have together going into this. So to actually have your vows written out in calligraphy for the wedding is a really
Yeah.
good idea, I think, too. So thank you so much, Abigail. That was great.
Okay.
Okay, on to Stephen. Okay. Couples today have the opportunity to register for gifts that are less practical and more meaningful, something they wouldn't consider buying at that stage in their life together. Can you speak to the process in which you walk couples through choosing something meaningful together and how it can be a memento to this time in their life?
Sure. Great to be here with everyone. Sorry it's, through internet, but it's close enough for now. So I guess that for me, it all comes down to this notion of a keepsake. And I think we were each talking about it in different ways. But I also like that idea of a bit of an extravagance, because the tradition of registry really came out when, couples really didn't have anything. They were, just sort of out of high school almost, and they basically needed everything. And so it was a way for their guests to get together to sort of set you up for life, to give you things that you needed for the type of entertaining that people used to do in the day, or things that maybe they wanted you to have to keep for a long time, but just as a way to remember them and their role in being there that day. Now most people seem to have all of the stuff they need. So it does present an opportunity to buy something that you want. And as you were just saying, something that maybe you wouldn't have thought about previously. Like in our case, just, to let you know what Catherine and I did, that as you can see behind me, I mean, we have a fair amount of art in our house and photographs, and, we had an abundance of things like that. One thing that we didn't have was a comfortable couch. That, I think when we met, it used to be like a futon couch that you could flatten down and you could put it up, and it looked great in the catalog, but after a few years it was no longer very comfortable. And we started to look around for couches and talk about sticker shock. Like, for me, art can be thousands of dollars. I think it's a great price. Someone tells me a couch is $5,000, I think they're trying to rip me off. So it was a painful process. And then at one point when we were talking about registry and we thought, oh, we're not going to get registered, like, just people should use their imaginations. And both of our mothers said, that makes it very difficult on people. Like a lot of times they want some guidance because they don't really know what you need, and they want to get you something that you're going to use. So we started to think, well, there's that couch at Montauk that we like quite a bit. And so we registered for a couch. And it was great that people, especially the people that, had been to our place and sat on our present couch, I think they were delighted to help us upgrade. But it's something that we still have, and we like literally use it every day. And there were some people that didn't like the idea of just buying a portion of something, so they did still go out and buy something individually for us, which we love just as much. So it's not that you're forcing people to do something that they don't want, but for us it was great. And we had a couch that we never would have imagined buying by ourselves. And there was about 50 odd people that each bought a little piece of our couch, which was great. Now, one thing that we also wanted to do, though, in terms of that idea of keepsake, was that Catherine and I also wanted to give our attendees a keepsake that we wanted to, have a personal little memento for them. So more than just some candy in a bag that they would take home at the end of the night and consume in the next few days. And at the time, Catherine was doing a lot of collecting and curating with anonymous snapshots, sort of like, we'll see how well this shows up on the screen, but so, it's about 3 inches by 4 inches, and it's of a man plowing in a field. And so I think we had 120 odd people at the wedding. So we found like 120 photographs that were similar to that, but were each about something specific that reminded us about someone specific. So as their name cards, we, had photographs that size, we matted them sort of portrait style, and then put a name card on them. So, Aunt Marg had one, my mom had one, Catherine's mom had one. And to this day, we can still go to people's homes that were at our weddings, and we see these photographs framed up like in the bathroom or in the kitchen or what have you. And that was a lot of fun for us.
Mhm.
And in terms of my business, that we've been helping couples register for art, that there are some people that, already have the couch, but they don't have anything on their walls. So it's sort of the opposite of what we went through. And we do it in two ways. For people that are familiar with the gallery, it might be a particular photograph that they've had their eye on, but it's too expensive. And so this gives them an opportunity for their friends to gang together and help them buy it. So we'll help the couple send something out to all of their guests, and basically people will call or email, and they'll each buy gift certificates that are put towards that particular photograph. And so, on occasion, the couple needs to top up a little bit. More often than not, they have, more than enough to buy that photograph, and they might buy some books or other smaller photographs at the same time, or they keep it in a bank and they'll come back later. Other people aren't that familiar with the gallery, but their friends are. So their friends get together and buy them gift certificates that we put in a bank for them. And then the couple comes in, and then they can, generally afford to buy something that they never would have even thought of, because they have this money in the bank. And that works out nicely. And especially the idea about how they tend to do it together. And I think, especially in the latter case, it becomes a really fun thing for people to do, like to think about, well, what do we like? And, what don't we like? And the only advice I would give is just not to try to do it so quickly. That, if you think when you buy a car together, and the pain and agony of test driving cars and reading all the magazines and consumer reports, and then taking a few out for a test drive, and you're going to own that car for about 5 years. Here you're talking about a piece of art that you're going to keep for the rest of your life. So it's worth spending a bit of time and not trying to do it all at once. So the first visit to the gallery, just look around and then walk away and see if there's anything, like in 2 or 3 days, just talk to each other about it and say, was there anything in that gallery that stuck out? And you're like, what, there was that photograph about whatever, and I can't seem to get it out of my mind. And the other person says, I was thinking about the same picture. Or they said, oh, but I didn't like that one at all. Like, did you see that other one with the big hawk or whatever? And a really beautiful time going back and forth and slowly narrowing it down. But I think your best choices are going to be made when you're not staring at it. So it is the one that you're thinking about when you're at it, and you're talking about it, you're having fun with it. And then that becomes something that will continue to interest you for years and years.
Yeah.
So that's, anyway,
yeah.
a little bit about.
No, that's fantastic. And I love the idea. Well, of course we love art, but I love the idea that they have something that is actually the beginning of something. It's a beginning of a collection. It's a beginning of working together to compromise on the aesthetic things that you're going to put in your house. So it's almost like a beginning of this sort of shared love of something. And I just love that they can build on it, whether it's more photographs or other types of art, or everything can be built around that. That's amazing. Thank you. That was really great. And someone just asked, any suggestions for wedding favors? Well, that's what Stephen was talking about. Those little photos that we collected were probably what, $1 each, maybe.
Yeah.
If they were $1, we would get packages of old photos for, you know, $1 and just go through and pick ones that sort of matched people. So it's a really fun keepsake to go and then see them in people's houses. So thank you. That was great. I just wanted to bring up too, Corinne, do you want to just speak a bit about the art that you're doing, and that maybe I'm assuming people could register for that as well?
I guess so. I've never thought of that before. Yeah, for sure. So on the side of my wedding photography business, I have a fine art photography shop. It's all online now. And it's called the Georgian Bay Print Shop. So harking back to where I'm living right now, up in Collingwood, over the years, I've collected just loads of beautiful landscape photographs of Georgian Bay and have decided to put them together into a rotating seasonal collection, basically, of photographs. So I started that not long ago. I haven't had a show or anything yet. I hope to one day soon, but in the meantime, that's all online, and it's a really, really fun and creative new branch of the business.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's kind of interesting to have your wedding photos done by someone, but then also this that would have a similarity, you know, a similar aesthetic. So I just wanted to make sure people knew about that. I just want to quickly touch on, we don't have a lot of time, but the engagement photos. Do any of the photographers just want to, what are the benefits? I'm going to ask each of you actually, and you're each going to give me one benefit of doing an engagement shoot. So Story, let's go with you. What do you think is?
Well, there are many benefits. I'll pick the easiest one, which is that
It's hard for everybody else.
Yeah, sorry guys. It actually gives the two of you a chance to be professionally photographed, probably for the first time ever. It gives you a chance to practice moving together and being together, and cuddling and embracing, all while being photographed. That is not necessarily a natural feeling first time around. And you don't want to be learning anything new on your wedding day. You don't want to be learning how to pose or learning how to, you know, move together. So working with the same, hopefully, photographer that you use for your wedding, so there's that continuity, you'll get a sense of what feels right. And if there's anything that feels really wrong, you just tell your photographer, and that just gets struck from the potential pose list when you're working together on the wedding day. So that's the easiest benefit, is the practice makes perfect.
Okay, great. Melissa, you're on. A benefit of an engagement photo.
Yeah, I have to agree with Story. She hit it right on the head. So you want to be comfortable with your photographer, because it gets really awkward on the day of if your photographer is suggesting a pose that you guys might not want to do. For example, I don't know, jump up in the air. If you're not comfortable with jumping up in the air, your photos are not going to look great, and that's going to be a waste of time. So yeah, you want to be really comfortable with your photographer and comfortable with each other in front of the camera lens. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's it.
Corinne.
Yeah, for sure. Story and Melissa nailed it. It's a good chance to get to practice and to get comfortable with your photographer. Going third, I would have to say it's a really cool chance to get photographs of a really special and important time in your lives together that's not your wedding day. You know, you'll end up with beautiful wedding photographs that are a bit more formal. And this is an opportunity to get photographs that feel a bit more you, and that can almost be a documentary of what this part of your lives are together. So I usually try to encourage people to steer clear of the sort of, you know, let's just go walk around a park type engagement photographs. And we get to know one another, we chat back and forth, and we plan something that's you. So, you know, whether that's me documenting you guys doing your typical Saturday morning pancake breakfast together and playing with your dog, or being up at your cottage, it's a wonderful opportunity to get beautiful professional photographs of something that you wouldn't necessarily ever get to have photographed, and make some really cool memories that way.
Perfect. Okay, I have one last rapid fire question for all of you. Weddings aside, what is your most cherished memento? Okay, let's start with Stephen.
Well, I'd say it's our wedding photograph, actually. It's not here, but we had someone use a banquet camera. So we have one photograph with everyone that was at our wedding with us.
Yeah, it's in our hallway. It's pretty awesome to go and see,
Yeah.
because now some of those people are getting married. Some of those kids are getting married. It's like, oh my God, we're getting older. Corinne, do you have a memento that doesn't have to be wedding?
Yeah, for sure. I actually, at the end of every year, I put together a small album of photographs that I've taken just in my personal life throughout the year. And to be honest, most of those are iPhone photos. They're great. And I end up with a really nice sort of little album just documenting all the important moments of the year. And I've got a nice collection of those going now. And I love them.
That's great. Story?
So I've been documenting my daughter's lives since they were born, and I have put together volumes of albums, one for each 5-year time frame. So I'm now up to the 4th volume since they're now 20, and they are the only thing I would take out of the house if it got on fire. I mean, other than the kids. They are.
Tell them to pick up the albums.
That's right. They are. I look back on them and I see their beautiful, happy, growing, smiling selves, and it reminds me of what's most special to me. So yeah, definitely the albums, and I use the same albums that I use for my couple's wedding albums. So like the best quality that there is.
Right. Thank you, Lewis. What is that memento?
I think for me, it's probably, over the years, I've collected a lot of the little bits of artwork that my kids have done and the little cards that they write me every year, birthdays and Christmas and that sort of stuff. So I think, that collage that I'm putting together with all of that sort of stuff is probably my biggest memento, or my most important keepsake I have.
Great. Melissa?
Oh gosh. Sentimental person, so I keep every single little thing that I've been given. I guess
comes to your mind?
My biggest one, my favorite one, is my grandmother. So my grandmother is from Chile. I'm half Chilean, and she gave me a silver yerba mate cup. What that is it's a cup to drink this juice, or kind of like a tea called yerba mate, and you drink it with a straw called a bombilla, and it's made out of silver. It's vintage, and that's how I'll remember my grandmother.
Beautiful. Abigail, we saw your framed invitations.
Yeah. For me, it's actually the box of little memories of mostly just letters my husband wrote to me when we were dating. And these are because I guess he didn't want to come to me to write it in calligraphy, he wrote it himself. So I have a box of that, and from time to time I look through it and read all of majority of the letters, sometimes all of them. So yeah.
Nice. That's great. Okay. We hit 6 o'clock, right on the nose. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Please follow all our panelists on Instagram. They're all on the Wedding Co. website as well. And thank you for joining us. That's the last summit, but you can go back to the Wedding Co. website and watch the other ones. Thank you to our panelists. That was amazing. I feel like the hour just flies by, but that was a really great insight to how to archive your memories. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you at the wedding show in November. Bye.